Did you know the largest park in Lincoln, Nebraska is 1,472 acres? Located in the southwest part of Lincoln is Wilderness Park. With 31 miles of trails, you can walk and see something new almost every time you visit. I have spent a lot of time at Wilderness Park throughout the years, seeing many of the different things they have from the past along their trails. Wilderness Park is an important historical site in Lincoln. To begin, I'll explain the history of Wilderness Park, then I will tell you some of the structures that still remain there, and then I'll tell you about an event that happened at Wilderness Park. Now, let's get started on the history of Wilderness Park. The park currently known as Wilderness Park wasn't always known as Wilderness Park. Before Lincoln was founded, the area belonged to the Oto Missouri and Pawnee Native American tribes. According to the website It's Your Wilderness, from the founding of Lincoln in 1856 through the mid-20th century, the area of Wilderness Park was home to multiple attractions and multiple parks. In 1894, it was known as Lincoln Park. It was a private recreational enterprise with baseball fields, football fields, swimming, and swings. In 1915, they got a new owner and became what was known as Electric Park. They had many attractions, but they closed in 1927. In 1935, the Council of Boy Scouts leased the land for Camp Minnescua, but closed in 1966. Another park that used to be part of the Wilderness Park was Epworth Lake Park. It opened in the early 1900s and was a gathering spot and a summer resort for the Methodist Church. At Epworth Park, they had their auditorium. It was one of the biggest auditoriums in Nebraska at the time. In 1935, over 14 inches fell in 1 week, flooding all of the land and washed away Epworth Hall. According to the website It's Your Wilderness, in 1972, Camp Minnescua, former Epworth Lake Park, and other parks and attractions were combined to become Wilderness Park. Now that you know the history of what used to be Wilderness Park, let's move on to the different remains and structures you can still see today. There are many to see, and some of the following are just some of what is still around. One of the best known images of Wilderness Park is the arches which used to be the entrance to Epworth Lake Park. On the map you have, it is number 2 on the map. The arches for Epworth Lake Park, is located on the southeast corner of 1st and West Calvert Street. The trails behind this entrance lead to almost all of the other trails in Wilderness Park. Another entrance that's still standing today is the entrance to Camp Minnescua, which is down the road from the arches. On your map, it is number 1. They are close enough that you can visit and see both of them on the same day. Walking behind the entrance to Camp Minnescua, you can see many of the different parts that were part of the camp, including their benches and many small covered bridges that would go across many of the little creeks that are in Wilderness Park. Another very popular spot is the Suspension Bridge in Wilderness Park. It is located south of the Old Cheney entrance, and on your map, it is located at number 3. The bridge is updated many times over years, and so it may be closed when you go to visit. Since you have an idea of the history of the remains and what you can now see at Wilderness Park, let's talk about one of the main events that had happened at Wilderness Park. On your map, this site is located at number 4. One of the most tragic murders in Nebraska history happened right on the grounds of Wilderness Park. According to an article published by Lisa Simmons on October 27, 2021, in 1894, a Rock Island locomotive was pulling two passenger cars, and as they were about to head over a trestle, otherwise just a bridge, in what was now known as Wilderness Park. As the locomotive was going across the bridge, the track split and it derailed. The coals from the engine set the cars on fire, killing 11 people inside. An investigation into the crash showed that it was actually sabotage to the railroad. The spikes on the railroad were pulled, and they found a crowbar in a field nearby. An African American named George Washington Davis was found near the scene and arrested for the crime. He was jailed for over 10 years, but was released due to not enough evidence charging him for the crime. The crime of the locomotive crash is still unsolved today, and it remains one of the worst murders in Nebraska history. Today I have shared with you the history of Wilderness Park, the many remains from the past that you can still see today, and an event that altered history. What will you discover when you go to Wilderness Park? Thank you.